despite all this success, we're getting great houses, we're selling out, we've got great pay-per-view numbers. We're just a month removed from the Owen Hart tragedy. Of course, that was Over the Edge. This is King of the Ring. That was May. This is June. So we're just like a month away, a month removed.
Yeah.
If you could think back to the way you were feeling at the time, did it just feel like there was maybe a dark cloud over everything you guys were doing because this was so fresh, so recent? I'm not saying anybody did anything wrong. I'm not placing any blame, but it has to just be on your mind all the time in this era, right?
Yeah, you can't slip your mind. It's not something you just put back in the recesses of your memory and forget about. It's always there. It's still there today. There's not a day goes by that something doesn't remind me of Owen and Over the Edge and all that stuff. Uh, I'm glad AEW is doing some things with Owen's family. That's certainly not only say overdue, but it's certainly timely, and it's a good thing. And I know they just got back from a couple of TV dates in Calgary, and that was a success, from what I understand. So I'm I'm happy we're doing things with Owen's family, and I'm happier that Martha and the young son Oj are on board. They're supporting it, and that means a lot. It would be crazy if they didn't, as far as the public is concerned. So I'm pleased with the feel of this whole relationship, and it's just working out fine. I admire Tony Khan for moving forward and trying to get the Hart Owens family involved, and it's a good thing. It's an awful good thing, and so happy for the whole process. Quite frankly,
Let's talk a little bit about Owen's funeral. Of course, this whole tragedy happens in May, and a few days later, we've got the funeral, of course. And the next day is a Monday Night Raw, where we're actually, or that's when it airs. Of course, the show was taped back on May 25th, but we're on tape delay here, where we're doing one live Raw, and then the next day we're taping a Raw for the following week. And so this Owen episode, where it opens on June 1st with footage of wrestlers on the bus. I guess there's a couple of buses that are adorned with "We love you, Owen," and "We miss you, Owen" on the buses. And Meltzer would say that if I hadn't heard that the family had requested the WWF air no footage from the funeral, I would have thought it was the classiest handling of the situation they had done to this point. It was clearly not about ratings, as it was put on the first thing in the show and never referred to again. However, if the family requested they not show footage and they did, that's a completely different issue. Now, Vince would actually let some of this play out in the newspaper there in Calgary, the Calgary Sun, because he's going to say he talked to Martha at least 5 times, and at no point did she not ask, or did she ask him not to show footage from Owen's funeral. Of course, Martha would debate that. This gets ugly in a hurry. Were you in the middle of some of this?
not really. I try to stay out of it. There's nothing I could do to influence the decision. Decisions were being made through Vince and Martha, and I felt in my role it was just better to support the talent and stay out of it. Support them, yes. Encourage them, yes. Uh, Encourage them to show their appreciation for the kind of man, the kind of wrestler, the kind of human being that Owen Hart was. But I thought it better for me to stay out of that political nightmare because you just couldn't win. You couldn't win. And I was there to support the talent more than anything. And that was my job. And that's what I did. And uh, I think it worked out okay, but it's largely a no win situation. I mean, we need to adhere to her wishes. I think we did that. I thought, that we did that. I'm sure there was some undercurrents at play, but our my mission was to support her and our talent, who had a kindred spirit relationship with Owen, and that was kind of how I summed up my role in that whole situation. It was very heartbreaking, and it's a no-win deal. I mean, come on, no-win deal. Funerals are not fun. Funerals are not events to publicize and to embrace. Be respectful, uh, be present as best one can, and move on. And that's kind of how that was a philosophy that I had, because at that point there was not much we could do. It was all said and done. So it was heartbreaking to say the least on many fronts.
The idea that all this has to play out in public is disappointing. Vince McMahon is going to be writing into the paper here to say that the company had intended to pay for the funeral. They didn't realize that Martha had made it clear to the local company there that there were certain expenses she was going to pay for. But Vince can't help himself and say that we paid for limousine services, transportation of the body, flowers, service folders, video screen, public address systems, buses, signages for buses, armbands, catering, housekeeping, lawn cleanup, men's and ladies' clothing, sunglasses, hairdressing, obituaries, a Canadian flag, and $152,200 for transportation expenses for WWF talent and personnel, blah, blah, blah. So for someone to say they don't want this to carry out in public, he sure does list everything. He finishes by saying, out of respect for Owen and the wonderful human being that he was, I do not want to engage in Martha Hart's allegations in a public forum. I'm simply writing so that you'll have the facts. This all gets published. This goes sideways in a hurry. I, for one, am really glad that we got the nice bow on it at the end, because that's kind of what it felt like. This Owen tournament in Calgary from AEW just last week, and the post-match interview that was posted with Oj and Martha and Jeff, it felt like closure for a lot of people. Would that be fair to say?
I think so. Yeah, we finally got to a place that we could somewhat celebrate his legacy and not be grieving as much. Always going to grieve. I'm sure that they're still grieving to some degree, and who would think anything else? But I think we were on the cusp of a major step toward closure, and all I can say was just about time. We needed to get to that point in this journey, and I think that we did that.
This is also the era where there's another lawsuit going on. We know Martha's going to sue, but Sable is suing the WWF as well over sexual harassment. Were you involved in any of that process? When Sable would have a claim, like, does that just go straight to Jerry McDevitt, or does it come across your desk too?
Well, it comes across my desk, but it certainly gets to McDevitt's hands sooner than not, because he was the guy. And I think I read the other day where Vince and McDevitt are no longer working together. Is that accurate?
McDevitt, MLW put McDevitt out of business. He retired. Court got that $20 million. We never heard from McDevitt again. He no longer has any business with WWE, and I believe he's retired.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. All I know is that he's the best attorney I've ever been around, by far. But knowledge, product knowledge, all that good stuff that I talk about here on the show, he has it. He got it over the years. He acquired these skills and so forth. But when I read that or heard that, I thought it was somewhat surprising, because McDevitt has been such an integral part of so many trials and situations involving the WWE over the years. At one time, he was extremely powerful within the company, and so I was a little surprised that all happened. But in any event, it did, and everything's got to come to an end at some point in time. And I also remember, McDevitt is no spring chicken. He's a guy he's over 60. I still talk to him every now and then. He calls to see how I'm feeling and stuff like that. We don't talk about the court case or, all that stuff. But I have great respect for Jerry McDevitt, and I do still believe that he's the best attorney I've ever been around.